Today is the vlog for May 12th, 2018, and today started in a very curious way. I woke up in the middle of the night, maybe very, very early in the morning, 4 o'clock or so. But I went back to sleep, and I had a very weird dream. I remember it pretty distinctly. I was cleaning, reorganizing, moving a lot of boxes, cardboard boxes, most of which seem to be empty, which makes me wonder why I even had them, but that's dreams. And the phone rang. And I answer it, and it's sort of hard to understand the person because they had a British accent. But they said something about Eric something something Spornitz, as if Eric Spornitz had two middle names. Now, my name only has one middle name. It's Olson. And so I tried to explain that I was Eric Olson Spornitz, if that was who they were looking for. But then they laughed and tried to explain that their name was also Eric Spornitz, but it was Eric something something Spornitz. And I still don't remember what the two words were. But I thought that was very interesting. I wanted to have a conversation, figure out who he was and where he came from. But something started to distract me. There was something in the room that was distracting me. And eventually I was trying to talk and I realized that there wasn't any response on the other end. So he had hung up or the connection got dropped or something. And that was when I realized that the distraction was my first cat Mittens and Leo playing in the boxes. But I didn't know it was a dream at the time. I was just delighted to see the two of them. And I followed them into my room where they were, going under the bed, and I was petting them, feeling their fur under my hand. And I remember saying, "You're real. You're really real." And then I woke up. I told my friend about it, and I said, well, it didn't really feel like a nightmare. It was just one of those dreams that's sort of bizarre. And he said how terrible it sounded, because a nightmare, whatever is causing you the anxiety or the fear in the dream, when it goes away when you realize it's a dream, there's a sense of relief. Whereas this is the opposite. Once you realize it's a dream, you only have a sense of loss. And I hadn't really thought about that in that manner, because it just felt nice to feel fur under my hand. Okay, enough of the heavy stuff. People showing up to watch this probably don't need to see me moping around for 5 minutes. I'm going to try and undo this, or let this light in. Oh, that's not quite. Let's do that. We've drawn the blinds to sort of keep the sun from baking the upstairs in the house. Not that it's going to work. We're going to get 2 very hot days in a row, tomorrow and on Monday. And while some clouds are going to roll in this week, there is no rain in the forecast for 9 days. So it's going to be warm. And yeah, we'll see if I get called into work on Monday morning for fixing whatever problems may have arisen with what we're working on. But after I had my little morning escapade with the dream, I dragged my heels, and instead of going for a walk, I went to Exotics at the Redmond Town Center, which is colloquially known as Cars and Coffee, or at least that's what we've always called it in my house. I actually had my coffee before I left, which is good because I always feel very awkward walking around with any kind of coffee at the event, because there's a lot of money in one place, and I don't want to get coffee spilled on any of it. So I usually just drink it in the coffee shop, or like today I drink it at home. But there were so many cool cars this morning. There were a couple of Lancias. There was a Lancia race car from the 50s in impeccable condition. and a newer Lancia from I think the '80s, the Integrale, actually, since it's Italian, um, which was the World Rally Championship the year it came out, the World Rally Champion, and the license plate said WRC, and the owner was definitely not going to let you forget that this was the year the Lancia shone. But it was a cool little car. It was parked in front of my dad's car. My dad brought his 3.0 coupe, his BMW 3.0 coupe from like 1974. He spent a lot of time restoring that vehicle to amazing condition, and it delights me whenever people stop and look at it because it is a beautiful car. I might show it sometime in another vlog, but oh yeah, there were Ferraris, there were Lamborghinis, there were a lot of McLarens, so much so that you sort of lose track of the fact that the McLaren is one of the greatest supercars ever made, and certainly an amazing value for the money, and a feather in the cap of the British automotive industry, which has struggled throughout the years to keep up with the Germans and the Italians and the Japanese. Speaking of the Japanese, probably the coolest car I saw there was the least cool car of all. It's called a Honda Street. It's never been released in the US, and for good reason. This one was right-hand drive, so it was obviously imported from Japan. And it was so short. It was shorter than the Porsche parked next to it. But it had tons of room inside for 4 people and a little bit of room in the back to carry their stuff. Clearly created as a family town car in Japan, where parking is hard to come by and space is tight. But yeah, right-hand drive, probably like a 60 horsepower engine or something to move the whole thing around. But my favorite feature was the rear seat belt. There was none. To keep the people in the back seat safe, a bar comes down over their knees as if it was a ride in Disneyland. Can you imagine driving around and that's your safety feature? That's what's going to keep you from having an accident. I think you just end up jamming the bar into your stomach and causing some sort of intestinal syndrome. But yeah, it was actually there was a sticker on the inner windshield for Bellevue College, which was it was called Bellevue Community College when I went to it 20 years ago. Almost 20 years ago, about 18 years ago now. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. The weather was perfect for it. Lots of people there, lots of cars. It was a day worth going out and living. And I know I'm lucky to be able to do that. And I still feel kind of lucky that I was able to have a dream that made me feel as good as it did, even if it was only for a moment. I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.